Welcome to the right-hand menu. You can automate your target audience engagement scenarios with our ready-to-use workflows. In this video, we're going to look at customizing our workflow template that will automate your lead funnel management. Before we start, please check out our video on mapping your Google account so that you can download our workflow sheets to your Google Drive and customize them. The links to the videos are in the description. Let's get started. In Step 2 within the RBA Rules tab, you first download the workflow template. For the automation of lead funnel management, you'll need two templates. The first one is LeadGen Workflow Template. We'll use this to manage inbound leads, who come and interact with your digital assets like your business Facebook page or your website. The other is Campaign Workflow Template, which you can use to bring leads to your digital assets through outbound campaigns, like third-party ads, email campaign invites, or just by identifying traction on your marketing posts on social media and nudging the engaging audience to explore your product or service offerings. In this video, we're going to automate inbound lead funnel management, and so we'll download the LeadGen Workflow Template. Create folders in your Google Drive and move the downloaded template to the respective folder. We've explained this in our video on mapping your Google Drive account. Check out the description for the video link. Before we begin customizing the template, let's understand what the contents of the template look like. The first column is a field called Step Number. The numbers are generally sequential starting from 1. But it doesn't have to be in an order, though we recommend it. What's most important to remember is that the step numbers are unique. The numbers should not repeat. No two rows should have the same step number. The automation engine identifies the rows based on the step number. Duplicate rows with the same step number will result in the synchronization of template with DB to fail. The second column, or column B, contains the text that will be posted to your target audience. The content will be read and displayed just the way it appears in this cell. If it has a line break for a new sentence or paragraph, the line breaks will appear in the posted message too. If the character count exceeds the limits set by various digital channels, the content will be broken up into 2 or more messages. The third column, or column C, tells the automation engine what is the type of message or question that is being set up. Based on the value chosen for question type, the automation framework allows flexibility to include validations or other rules like post-processing. The simplest of these is the multiple choice type of question or text, which can have up to 10 options that the target audience can choose from, and respond to this type of message. Then we need to have at least one dialogue with a message type set up as the one, called end of conversation. The workflow ends when this step is reached. The question or text against a row of this question type will be the last message sent to the target audience. If the workflow does not end in this type of message, the conversation will be hanging without completion. You will not be able to see incomplete conversations in the dashboards or reports, and hence, will remain hidden. There's one more type of end of conversation, which when reached, has the option to execute an API call. You can configure the endpoint API call execution for this step number in the RBA Rules tab. For example, you can publish the audience's personal data, captured in this workflow, to your CRM apps or in-house tools. Check out the description for a video on how to set this up. And then, we also have message types that can ask for the audience to send a free text input. The responses to some of these message types may need validation. For example, email address or age, or the year of birth. There are some that do not need a validation of the responses, like street address or notes and comments. There are special message types too, like the camera shot of the barcode, which will ask the audience to send a photo of their product barcode. You can select the question or message type to suit the conversation flow you want to design. The next column is called Step Number to Fire. We define the step number to which the control will flow to when the target audience responds to the current question or message. We provide the next step number here, unless the current row's message type is of multiple choice. This is important to remember. For multiple choice message type, we configure the next step number for each of the choices, which is the column that is next to each choice. Also, if the current row's message type is end of conversation, then the current row, obviously, does not need the next step number, since the flow ends with the current step. Any workflow step that is of a multiple choice message type will need the choices or options to be defined. These are the options that the target audience will see as a quick reply button, one for each option, like this. When you create an option, you provide the text that will be displayed, and you also provide the step number that should be triggered when this option is selected by the target audience. Hence, each option, like option A, option B, and so on, till the 10th choice, which is option J, needs the next step number to be defined. You can create up to 10 options for each multiple choice message type. Please restrict the number of characters in the option text as much as possible. If it exceeds 25 characters, some channels may trim the text. You can experiment with the display text length for each digital channels, and shorten it, if necessary. Here are some of the do's and don'ts to remember when working with template sheets. Do not edit or change the formula or the formatting. Do not rename the worksheets. The automation engine would expect the contents of the workflow steps to be available in the first worksheet called template. Do not change the name of this worksheet. Do not rename the worksheet called metadata. Do not change the content of this worksheet either. Do not change the order of the worksheets. Template worksheet must be the first. Metadata should be the second worksheet. Do not download the Google Spreadsheets to your hard disk to open and work on it with other tools like Microsoft Excel. Please open the spreadsheet in a browser only. Some of the formula and rules may get lost if other tools are used. When inserting a new row across the template worksheet, please copy the contents of a row in its entirety, and paste it on the newly inserted row. There are cells that contain formatting rules and formula, which will not be available in a newly inserted row. Copying and pasting contents of an existing row will also insert the rules and formatting needed for the new row to be functional. After duplicating the contents of another row, in the newly created row, you can change the content to suit the workflow step. During this process, you'll run into a warning message like this. This warning can be ignored only when you are inserting a new row, or if you're resizing a row or column. However, if you run into this warning in any other scenario, please do not proceed with the editing. This warning lets you know that the cell, column or row that you are trying to edit is protected. Proceeding against the warning will result in the template sheet getting corrupted. If it gets corrupted, you'll have to download the sheet again and redo the customization from the beginning. If the above rules are not followed correctly, the automation engine can fail the synchronization of template with the database. We now open the template and customize the steps. This LeadGen sheet has been cleared of the default steps that came with the downloaded sheet. We'll now create the steps one by one. Let's put a welcome message, nudging the audience to explore the products. We set the message type to one of the multiple choices. We'll provide the product options for the choices. In this video, we're showing 2 product choices. You can configure up to 10 options for each step. Next, we create steps that introduce your audience to the product they choose in step number 1. We create the introduction text for the first product in step number 2, along with 2 options. The first option is for a quick overview. The second is for the product description and features. Similarly, let's create the introduction text for the second product in step number 3. Now, we configure the flow of control when the audience select one of the products in step number 1. It's step number 2 for the first choice, and step number 3 for the second choice. Let's get back to step number 2, which has options that show a quick overview and the product description. We create the rows for these 2 options. Now, we configure the control to flow to step number 4 when the audience choose quick overview in step number 2. Similarly, we configure the control to flow to step number 5 when the audience choose description in step number 2. Same goes for the second choice of step number 4. If the audience choose description, we configure the control to flow to step number 5. Also, notice that we've created a second option for step number 5. Show other products should take the audience to step number 1 so they can explore other products. So, we configure this option to take the control back to step number 1. Now, the audience may want to buy the product they've been exploring. So, we create a step that has a link that takes them to your channel partner's shopping cart. And we set this up as an end of conversation. We also configure the flow of control in step number 4's Buy Now option to go to step number 6, which has the link to make the purchase. Now let's say you want to capture some personal information of the visitor before they go to the shopping cart. This can help you to recommend other products accordingly if the sale conversion doesn't happen. We set up step number 7 to capture their age, for example. And we configure the Buy Now option in step number 5 to flow to step number 7. Eventually, step number 7 should take the control to step number 6 to send the link to shopping cart. We've now completed the entire flow should your audience choose Scepter 360 in step number 1. Let's now focus on the second option, which is Victor laptop bag. The control will flow to step number 3 if Victor is chosen. Step number 3 has 2 options. The first option is for a quick overview. The second is for the product description and features. This is similar to what we did for the first product choice Scepter 360. We create step numbers 8 and 9 for the quick overview and description of Victor laptop bag, respectively. Now, we configure the control to flow to step number 8 and 9, when these two options are selected, respectively. Same goes for the second choice of step number 8. If the audience choose description, the control should flow to step number 9. So we configure the choice called description accordingly. Similarly, show other products in step number 9 should take the audience to step number 1, so they can explore other products. So, we configure this option accordingly. Now, we create the rows that capture the personal information of the audience, and to take them to the shopping cart. In this case we capture their age. We configure the Buy Now options in step numbers 8 and 9, to take the control to step number 11. Finally, we set up step number 11, to take the control to the step containing the shopping cart link, which is step number 10. All the control flow branches reach either step number 6 or step number 10, both of which are of the type end of conversation. Also notice, there are no cells that are in red. This completes a simple construction of the engagement design. You'll still have to test this design, and make changes, if necessary, to make sure that all the branching ends in a step that's an end of conversation. All completed conversations are available for you to view, in the Conversations tab. Once you start using the sheet, it becomes extremely easy and self-explanatory. You can play around by creating new steps and changing the question type. Just remember to follow the do's and don'ts that were explained earlier in this video. Now, you upload the customized workflow sheet to your right-hand men account. We've explained this in our video on mapping your Google Drive account. Check out the description for the video link. It's time to test the uploaded workflow steps. If you're testing it on the Facebook page of your business, you first should have mapped your Facebook page already to your right-hand men account. Check out the description for a link to the video on mapping your Facebook page. For any queries, you can email support@4byoff.com. That's support@forbyof.com.